Well, signing day, December. We're not practicing this week, so it had a little different feel than it has the last couple, but a historic day for SMU football. I think it really validates the long-term vision we have, why we made the move to the ACC, just for a really unique day today where it's the best class we've ever signed in school history here, probably by a long shot. So followed up by last year, which at the time was probably the best class we've ever signed here. So really thankful to our administration for their support. As you know, in the current climate of college football, you can't be successful in football or in recruiting without a lot of support from your president, your administration, and so many other board members. So thankful for their support. Thank you to our recruiting staff and really our entire staff for their tireless, countless hours over the last really probably year to almost 2 years recruiting a class. You start recruiting a class usually in their sophomore year, and just a ton goes into it. And even people that aren't directly in recruiting in our organization, everybody has a part in the recruiting process. And so just thankful for them. You know, I believe by the end of the day, it'll be 23 as of right now, 22 signees. And one of those is just because of the time zone they're in right now. But you know, I think they chose to come here for a variety of reasons. I think one, the player and staff culture here, they feel that, they know that relationships are real and matter here, and they want to be a part of that family atmosphere. I think the opportunities that the University at SMU presents, both while they're here, but also once they graduate and life after ball, I think are pretty much second to none, and they see that. I think the winning program, I mean, we've won 30 games in the last 3 years and played in the college football playoff and a 14-2 record in our first 2 years in the ACC. So I think all that stuff's attractive, and I think obviously the city of Dallas. I mean, there's a lot of people want to live in the city of Dallas, so we're thankful to be Dallas's college football team. So, you know, just kind of overview of the class. Like I said, I think it'll end up being 23. Right now it's 22. It could end up being 21 high school players, 2 junior college players at this point. Don't expect that number to change as of right now. 15 of the 23 are from the state of Texas. It's a big deal to us. 9 of them are from the Metroplex, from DFW, from the Dallas area. And that is, without question, the top number of any Power 4 school in America. So, as we are saying, we're the only school within a 30-mile radius of downtown Dallas. We're Dallas's football team, but we don't want to just say it, we want to live it. We want to be a part of what we do. And to sign 9 of probably the top 30, 35 players in the city, but not only are they all good players, no one signed that many out of this area. And it's arguably the most recruited city in America every year. So I think that shows a lot of the growth, and that's why I say it validates what we believe we can do here, because if the best players continue to stay home and know they can stay home, I think it gives us a chance to reach our goal of winning the national championship again. And so that's a big deal. It's a consensus top 25 class, or will be probably by all services. And you know, that stuff's important perceptually and just because we haven't done it. I mean, everybody can have a different opinion on how they rank classes, but pretty much I think by and large it's in that range. And then 12 of our signees are in the top 25 players to ever sign at SMU. So it's just a really, really good class top to bottom. I'll kind of go through them all and then answer any questions. But, you know, 14 offensive players, 9 defensive players. Really starting at quarterback, Cole Leinert, out of California, Redondo Union High School, led his team to a state championship game last week. Man, had really enjoyed getting to recruit Cole, known a lot of his family members for a while. We have connections to them. And just to see him from sophomore to junior to senior year grow, develop, become the player he has become, which we think is not even scratching the surface of what he's going to do. He's a leader, he's a winner. Super, super excited to have Cole leading this class as the QB. When you go to the running backs, we signed 2 running backs. I believe this is correct. If not, I'm citing Coach Kyle Cooper, but only 3 programs in the country have signed 2-4 running backs this cycle. It's USC, Notre Dame, and SMU. So really excited. Christian Rhodes, Coach Campbell over at Lake Highlands High School. Man, I remember when we flipped Christian Rhodes' film on a little over a year ago. His running style is unique. It kind of reminds you of a young Eric Dickerson. So to go ahead and put unfair expectations on him, but his size, his explosiveness, he can really run. He can catch the football. Just versatility. Man, he generates and makes a lot of yards, and I think he's got a chance to be a really good player here for us. We're really excited about Christian and just being right down the road. Then going down to Houston at Klein High School, Coach Caduti, you know, EJ Kelly, fast. You just think of fast. I mean, he's running the 100, 200, and open 400. That's a lot of running. He's probably going to be sub 10.7, I would think. so he can break tackles, and obviously have a guy who take the distance. Speed is a great equalizer. So we're excited about the running back class. 4 receivers. Last year was a really good receiver class. This year as well, as the last 2 years, counting this year, we're cycling out some older receivers, bringing in young guys that are talented and capable was a big emphasis for us. And, I think our staff did another fantastic job. I mean, Aljor Miles, Kaufman High School, Coach Burleson there. I mean, he's 6'3", 210 pounds. He's got a great combination of the size and true speed, that NFL body type. He's physically ready now to play at this level. So he's super mature, great family. So we're just looking forward to getting him here and getting going to work and hoping he can contribute early for us, like all these guys. I think then you go to Ja'Kai Anderson out of Louisiana, Edna Carr. He's still got good size. I mean, he's 6 foot 170, but I think Coach Likens said he may be the quickest receiver, or one of the quickest receivers he's ever recruited. I mean, and he is. And so when you look in the world at this level, when you're going to play teams that can play man coverage, you got to have guys that can separate, and he could definitely do that. And then once he has the ball in his hands, he's pretty good. So then the other receiver, Xavier Barnett out of Yoakum High School. Coach Robinson, they're still playing in the playoffs. And again, size, like he's 6'2", 205, 210 pounds, runs a 10.800. He never comes off the field. He's got over 15 touchdowns and I think over 15 sacks. I don't remember the last receiver who had 15 sacks, but I'm sure the sack club will allow him to contribute if he needs to. Just really excited. He was, I think, maybe the first commitment of the class, and has just never wavered, and compete for a state championship, and we're hoping he gets that done. Then kind of rounding out those 4 guys, Ty Crothers, Berkner High School, Coach Bryant, local. He's about 5'10", 5'11", almost 200 pounds, real thick. I think of Ty, I just think of competitive and confident. I mean, he's really good. Now you think of some of the guys we've had here who played in the slot, but he's also good enough to play outside. But he came to camp and earned his offer this summer. I mean, he came in and just wasn't scared of the competition. Went out and proved it, and just the confidence he has oozes out of him, and his competitive nature, and that's what we want here. So excited about those 4 receivers. Then you go to tight end, and we signed the #1 tight end in Texas, and Zach Turner with Coach Samples out of Duncanville. They're still competing for a state championship, so looking forward to what they can do. I mean, he's 6'2", 225. When you start thinking about pass catcher, you got to think when R.J. Maryland was a freshman and came in here and the instant impact he had. I think Zach has that ability, and his body's only going to get bigger and stronger once you get in the college weight program. But you start talking about a matchup problem at the tight end position, on linebackers, on safeties, even on smaller corners. I think Zach has all of those things that we've had with some of our guys like RJ in the past. And I think the physicality, though, he brings. I mean, he's 225. He plays like he's about 240. And super confident, and so a really big weapon for us at a time, especially when we're graduating guys like Matt and RJ and others. And then the other tight end, Andre Nickerson out of Inglewood. Andre's a bigger, physical. I mean, he's 6'3.5", probably pushing 6'4", 225. He's a 2-sport guy. I talked to him the other night. He's playing basketball, and you love guys that play multiple sports right when football ends. But he can also catch. So you start thinking in the mold of a Matt Hibner who can kind of do it all. So we feel like, we're losing 2 really talented tight ends, and you feel like you're bringing in some young guys that fit what we do and what has done here, and have a really, really high ceiling. So we're excited about the tight end class. And then to finish out the offense, 5 offensive linemen. Right now it's 4, but we expect it to be 5, and I'm not so sure. It might not be the best O-line class in the country. I'll let all you guys judge that and figure that out. But it's gonna, if it ends up being 5 guys that are all, I think 2 or 3 of them are in the ESPN 300. They're all 4 stars. One's a 3 or 4 star, and he's probably the one you'd want to fight the least. So, starting with Drew Evers and Coach Basil there at Flower Mound High School. I mean, 6'4", 300. I just think of versatility and athleticism when I think of Drew. Super, super competitive. He could play all 5 positions, and so you think of guys we've had here like P.J. Williams and Jalen Thomas. I think he's going to be in that mold in terms of the versatility. Don't tell those 2, he's probably more athletic than both of them, but keep that a secret from P.J. But, whether he plays tackle, guard, center, I can see him doing it all, which is obviously a huge deal for us, but it'll be a huge deal for him one day when he tries to go to the next level. So just to have a guy like Drew decide to stay home in Dallas when he could go to Ohio State, who's #1, or he could go to a couple of other places, was a huge deal. And we're just really, really fired up about Drew. Then you go to Evan Goodwin. You know, he's the Caleb Perry's his high school coach in Bauxite, Arkansas. Does a fantastic job. Evan's 6'7" and a quarter, 330, and he looks like he's 260 because the 330, he just wears it so well. You start talking about an NFL body for an offensive tackle, that's Evan. He won offensive lineman. He's the best lineman in the state of Arkansas. Won the Really Rofe Award, and but chose to come to Dallas and be a Mustang. And so super, super excited about Evan. Then you got Max Wright, just jumped on board a few weeks ago, but we've been recruiting him for a year. Coach Nally at Melissa High School, they're still competing for a state championship. And again, 6'7", 300. It's been a while, maybe if ever, I don't know, but definitely when we've been here, that we start having the 6'5", 6'6", 6'7" prototypical tackles in terms of their wingspan and their size. And so, you know, just excited that he wanted to come here and get developed by Coach Justice and stay close to home here in Dallas and compete for championships. And I think he's got a really, really high upside. And then rounding out the guys that have signed that I can talk about so far is Papunga Toa Katoa out of Euless Trinity, you know, Coach Lineweaver. Toa is 6'4", 340, and again, looks probably like he's 305. And he is just a people mover. I mean, it's just long. He's a prototypical guard. When you look at the class, you got guys like Max and Evan who are tackles. You got guys like Toa who's a guard. You got guys like Drew who are versatile. But Toa's a guard from day one. He'll be a guard. He'll always be a guard. And you know, he's got the size, the strength, the maturity to help us really early as well, like a lot of these guys do. And I just think, you know, I think a lot of these guys have this, and that's why we were attracted to him, the leadership quality. But Toa's a guy, man, you see future team captain, those kind of things, and really a lot of these guys. So that's the 14 guys we signed on offense. Super excited about. I think you know, De'Eric King and Kyle Cooper and Rob Likens and Casey Woods and Garen Justice, and not only them on the offensive side, but you know, we got guys like Ryan Jenkins and Tyler Foster and Reggie Bain and Parker Stone, Sam Holder. All those guys just do a fantastic job team recruiting, and just we're really fired up about the offensive unit that we're bringing in. Defensively, kind of switching gears. Told you we had I believe 9 defensive signees. You know, again, on offense, you saw 5 linemen. You're going to see 6 D linemen. So where games are won and lost always is the focus for us. So, you know, defensive end, Montre Harris out of Summer Creek High School, Coach Harrison, they're still competing for a state championship. They play elite defense there. But I think of Trey, I mean, he's 6'3.5", he's 220, super athletic, super ability to bend off the edge, which is what you want. He has the length and the motor and the physicality. It comes from the kind of program to help us early. But once that frame fills out, and he's 220 now, and he looks like he's 190 and playing wide out. So he's going to put on the weight and be a really explosive edge for us. And really fired up about him. And again, he's still competing for a state title. Then staying in the high school realm, you know, you got Hudson Woods there at Smithson Valley with Coach Hill. I mean, Hudson's got good length. He's 6'3.5", 220. Talk about Hudson, you think about just consistency and production. He's got 40 sacks, I think, in his career. They win. You know, they're competing again for a state title, and we want guys that are used to winning and used to being really productive and competing. Then we have 2 junior college edge pieces. You know, we've, over the last 2 years, lost several of our edge pieces last year, and then now with us losing, you know, Cam and Turbo. So we're able to go to Trinity Valley there, Coach Poe and Tavion Atkinson. I think impact guy, explosive. You know, when you think of what Elijah Roberts did for us at edge when he came in 2 years ago, you know, TA has that. I mean, he's 6'4", 275, and so he's going to have that weight that E-Rob had on the edge to be able to play field in, but he has the explosiveness maybe that we haven't had of anybody to also not only play field in, I bet he could play the boundary as well. But just start talking about guys who can get after the passer, but also physical enough to stop the run. And again, coming from a junior college where we had 15 sacks, I mean, the ability to plug and play right away and help us with some of the losses we have is a big deal. And then you know, David Chukwuemeka out of East LA, 6'7.5", almost 280. and we measured him within the last week, so that's legit. Hasn't played a lot of football. Was a basketball player like so many young men from that come over from Nigeria, but man, he is. He's physical. You watch his film, he's physical. He doesn't play like a guy who's only played a little bit of football. And so that kind of size, that explosiveness, that physicality, and he's super smart. And I think he's going to help us right away, but he's got multiple years, both those guys do. So that's a big deal for us. And then probably the best two high school defensive tackles we've signed by far, I think, since I know any of my time here. But you got Coach Orr at Mesquite Poteet, Keith Doty. Keith is 6'3.5", 6'4", 320, and he's just kind of like an anchor in terms of his size, which you need at nose. But he's, Coach Tibbs calls him a dancing bear. He's super light on his feet. And so, guy with that kind of size, he has the size to play early. He has the athleticism. And so we're looking forward to him getting in here and getting to work and learning what we do. And then you got Dakota Dixon at Monte Vista High School in California, 6'4", 320, super athletic, super high upside and high ceiling for the athleticism he has with that kind of size. Great family. I mean, mom's a DA out there in Oakland. Dad played football with Coach Natty in college. So this, we love the character of them. He's a lot of fun. You guys are going to enjoy interviewing him at some point. But those two guys together is kind of the standard of what we need every year out of our high school D linemen and especially the interior guys, and we're excited to get to bring those guys in and start that trend. And then kind of finishing it out at linebacker, some really good linebackers. Coach Walsh at San Marcos, Isaiah Young, and he's a little over 6 foot, 210. I think explosive, fast off the edge. He's a great blitzer, pass rusher that I think when he gets here and develops can really learn to play the position at a high level. But you love guys who can hit and run, and he can hit and run. And then Kenneth Goodwin at Miami Edison. He's kind of moved around a little bit from California to Vegas to Miami and back in Vegas training, but almost 6'2", 215, loves football, high football IQ, wants to be great, wants to be coached. He can really run, super explosive and what we call twitchy, just can really move, change direction and bend. So you got two guys that have the size and the speed and athleticism to play linebacker in our defense. And then rounding out on the back end, Ryan Gilbert at North Forney High School, we call him Deuce. Coach Shavers is coach. And, 5'11", 180, that's good size for a corner who can really run. To us, he's explosive. He's a playmaker. He's got that leadership too that you want to have. So I just feel really good about him coming in as a corner. So you talk about those 22 guys as of now, expect to be 23 with 2 junior college players, and we just couldn't be happier really with the class. And a lot of work goes into it, like I said, from our staff to our administration, our board members, our donors, everyone who helps us compete at the level we have to. And like I said, I just think it's a historic day. It validates why we made the move, why we're here, and why we feel really good about our long-term trajectory. So, questions?
You mentioned the O-linemen in this class. Just what have you seen from the work Darren has put in to bring in a class like that, and what is it about him do you think that makes players want to come play with him so much?
It's a great question. I think one, he's really relatable. He's the same guy every day. He's a relational coach, which most of our coaches are. But a lot of times at O-line, there's a stereotype maybe, and he's a relational guy that guys get to know. They know he cares about them, and he's a teacher. And guys at that position have to be developed. Transfers are one thing, and you transfer every position, but the data is going to tell you that O-line and D-line are maybe a little better out of high school long term than it is in the portal so far in this early 4 to 5 years of the portal world. And so for you to have a foundation of a team, you've got to have O and D-line be the foundation from high school, and then maybe bring in some transfers, but it's just hard to do that every year. And so I think we've made that an emphasis in the last 2 classes. You've got guys like Draymond and Abel and Drew from the last class that we're really excited about, then followed up with this. That gives us a great foundation, but I just think it goes back to Garen's relatable. He's all about relationships. He's all about development and teaching. And I think guys appreciate that because they know they got to come in and they got to develop physically in the weight room and all that. But O-line's a very physical and technical position, and you got to have both. And they see a guy that's going to care about him, have a relationship, and coach him, and not just yell and scream at him. When they don't do things right, he's going to tell them what they didn't do right and how to fix it and work on those things. And I think that's why we've had guys get better and guys stay here and then guys want to come here. And I'll say this, it's kind of like everything we're doing with our football program. We're trying to cast a vision, right? And we cast the vision last February to these guys that we wanted to sign the top O-line class in America. And we felt like we could because of a lot of guys like Drew and Toa and Max and others from the Metroplex, and then knowing that there's an Evan or some other guys out there that maybe we could add to it. And enough guys bought into the vision that, you know, arguably it's one of those best classes. So
the wide receiver class kind of similar in terms of, you know, just all different body types and,
Yep.
and fits and big recruiting battle wins. Just what was impressive about that class, and then also I saw Ty's camp. You know, what was it that stood out about him at camp that really?
yeah, just the class as a whole, and you know, to get 3 or 4 wide receivers to come play together is not always easy, and to pretty much do it back-to-back years. I mean, we feel like all 4 guys that are on our campus right now, in Coop and CB and Zay and Dalen, like, we feel great about all of them, you know, and you got to see what Jay Coop could do at times this year. Some of you saw Dalen late in the year on teams. Obviously, Zay got hurt. He's actually just got cleared, by the way. So we're excited about those guys going into year 2. And then to follow it up with these 4, like, that's what gives you hope that you can have a good 2 deep of guys that you can just roll and play. And they all bought into it. So I think, you know, from Rob and Ryan Jenkins do a fantastic job together, as does the rest of our staff, but just developing those relationships. And it's the right kind of kid that fits us. I mean, I think of Aljor Miles over at Kaufman. I mean, he is definitely a kid that fits SMU in Dallas. And he's 6'2 plus, he's 200 something pounds, runs a 10.8, like, it's really good. And so, I mean, you're going to look and go, is that Cortland Sutton, you know, when he walks in, because he's just that big. And to your point, different body type. I mean, then you go Xavier Barnett, who's just a freak athlete. Like, he could probably play 5 positions. You know, he's playing defensive end with 15 sacks. But so the versatility those big, explosive, fast guys can give you. And then you go to guys like Ja'Kai and Ty, who are just super quick. And Ja'Kai can do it all. He can play outside, he can play inside, he can run with the ball, but the cat-like quickness to get open. We've seen guys this year that give us trouble that are that quick. And to your point, beating someone like LSU on it, same thing with Aljor and OU and some others. You talk about the recruiting wins. I mean, everybody has them, but it's a big deal for us at the point of our program. And then Ty at camp, I mean, he can ball. I mean, what stood out is he's really good. But he could play outside, he could play inside. And he was that guy who, like, he was just going to go show you and go earn it. Like, we felt like he was good enough when he came to camp. Like, we were aware of him, we watched him, like, we like this kid. We had already offered him before, but then he came to camp. And a lot of guys that have come and they don't work out. And man, not him. He's like, I'm going. And I'm going against him. And he'd run right back and jump back to the front of the line and go, I want to go against him, and run right back. But he didn't just do it, like, he backed it up and made plays and made catches. So to see it firsthand was impressive, but who he was probably more impressive than any of it. Like a tough, competitive winner. People think what Roderick Daniels was to our team last year, that you see that in him. And so that's what stood out.
You mentioned last year's class was record-breaking. Now this one is too. How encouraging is it seeing these types of classes stacked together now, a couple years into the Power 4?
It's really encouraging. I mean, it's, again, painting the bigger vision of what we want to build. We're still in the building phases, even though, like I said, we won 30 games in 3 years. Things are going well in the process, and a lot of it is why these guys are choosing to come. But if we want to sustain it and build it for the long haul, which we do, you've got to have back-to-back type classes. And we're in Dallas, we're in the ACC, we're winning, so we can attract those kids now. And now they can say, again, 9 kids out of DFW. If nobody's got more kids from DFW in the Power 4 than we do, then that should tell you what you need to know, really. To me, that's probably the biggest takeaway, is that they're believing in the vision. And we only have 2 this is just our second Power 4 recruiting class. And to already be where we are, I think it's a big deal. And we got to continue to win. We got to continue to do the things we're doing. Like I said, we're investing, we're doing all the things we need to do. We keep winning on the field, keep developing guys, and them coming in, keep having success. Like when they see a Kevin Jennings stay home and have success, that's as good as you can ask for. Right now, they want to come do the same, because that's the blueprint for us. Continue to win and offer an opportunity for the best players in Dallas to say, I don't have to go anywhere. I can do it right here. And so I think that's probably what this validates as much as anything.
the running back room, kind of like thunder lightning is
Yeah.
what it looks like. Just what stood out about those two and kind of their two different paths to getting here.
Yeah, you kind of like that, to be honest. I mean, you look at our young guys that are coming back hopefully for next year when you've got, you know, Jermico Green, Chunky, who I think you're going to see a lot more of. I know he's been banged up and had issues this year, but we still love him. And then what Chris Johnson and Derek McFall brought to the table, same thing. I mean, both Chunky and Christian Rhodes are bigger backs, but they're explosive. They're not just 3 yards in a cloud of dust backs. They can make big plays. They can catch the ball in the backfield. I think that's the versatility with Christian you love. And again, I mean, you just flipped on the film and you just saw a playmaker, an athlete just making plays. They'd hand him the ball inside, they'd hand the ball outside, they'd throw it to him out of the backfield. And it felt like every week he'd rush for 100 yards and have another, 50 receiving. And so he's not stylistically a Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley type player. That's not his style. But in terms of the versatility, a little bit of that. And then EJ, I mean, again, you just got to have speed. I mean, we saw what Chris was able to do towards the end of the year. I mean, speed is the great equalizer. And so anytime you can grab speed. But I'll say this about EJ, he's not slight, he's not small, and he'll break tackles. You know, I mean, shoot, he's almost 5'10", 180. That's not bad for a running back, you know, especially coming out of high school. So you got to think when he gets done with Grizz, he's going to be closer to 200, 195, and even more explosive.
Well, I'm assuming expectations are probably going to be pretty high for Cole, just given his family and
Yeah.
what his dad did. How do you talk to him about that? Have you talked to him about that? And how does that factor in when, you know, he's got a last name? We've seen how that's played out
Yeah.
in other schools across the country.
Yeah, Matt's been great. He's been awesome, really supportive of Cole, supportive of us. His mom Brand's been great. I mean, the whole family. And we haven't talked about it a ton because, you know, we recruited for Cole for who Cole is. You know, the fact that his last name is what it is probably stuff he's had to deal with his whole life. That's good because his dad was super successful and still is to this day. And I think Cole has that same mindset. Like, you can see the intangibles that his dad had. I'm gonna tell his dad he's a better athlete than his dad. But I think probably getting to grow up around the game helps. You know, it's kind of like a coach's kid, even if he wasn't a coach's kid. And I think that's why you saw him sophomore, junior, senior. He just got better and better and better. We really think his best ball's ahead of him. But knowing his family like I do, I don't think it's going to be anything but a plus for him.
The tight end position with Andre and Zach, just what do they bring to the table that, you know, with a room that loses so much,
Yeah.
you could see them maybe on the field early?
Yeah, I think, you know, they both fit who we are and what we want to be at the tight end position. And so, you know, we need guys who can be really versatile, live in both the run game and the passing game. And so that's when I look at a guy like Andre, you see, I mean, the value Matt Hibner, not only is Matt Hibner a great player, but the value he's brought because he can block off the ball, block on the ball, block in space, catch the ball, run vertically. He can do all those things, be a great special teams player. Andre has that athleticism, will have that body type once he gets here and develops. And so, but he's also a threat to catch the ball and score and make yards. Like, you know, a lot of guys either have a tight end, he's a blocker, or he's a pass catcher. You really can't do both. I think Andre fits that mold of what we need. And then I think Zach, much like RJ, has that explosiveness, that speed that a lot of tight ends don't have, that kind of set the elite kind of pass catcher tight ends apart from others. I think he's got all of that, but he's also got a real physicality to him. Like, he's maybe just a tad shorter than RJ, but he's a little thicker. And so, you know, they're their own player, but when you start thinking of RJ came in here as a true freshman and played, and he wasn't quite ready maybe to block and all that, but like he played as a pass catcher and was able to make that transition pretty easily. I'd say the only difference too is RJ played predominantly receiver in high school. Zach has obviously flexed out and done that the way they've used him at Duncanville, but he's also gotten in there, mixed it up, and done a lot of things that tight end does. And so I just think more than anything, they complement each other. Like, you could put them on the field at the same time together and feel good about it, like we were able to do Matt and RJ at times, so that's good. But they both have that versatility we're looking for.
When you're recruiting guys like Zach, you mentioned, you know, Texas high school football playoffs are obviously going on. Duncanville still in it, Smithson Valley. When these guys transition to come, how important is that you see in the fit and them coming into a competitive environment like here?
Yeah, it's huge. We want winners.
Right.
We want guys that win, that expect to win, that are used to winning, that know how to win, because winning's a habit. And you can't just wake up and start winning. You got to know how to win. You got to expect to win. You got to learn to win. You got to do the things winners do. And so we try to do that in our program here. And that doesn't mean every kid who comes here came from a 10-0 program, but we want guys that came from programs that are all about that and putting people in position to have those expectations. And I mean, you think Cole, and he led his team to the state championship game. You look at all the great QBs, most of the time they were successful, right? They may not have always won a championship, but they win. Not a lot of QBs don't win and go on to be super successful, right? Because that's really the number one job. And so it starts at your QB, but then you just go down the list. You like 6 of them are still playing. I mean, Dakota Dixon is playing in the California semifinals this week. And so we expect to win here. And unfortunately, we don't win all the time, but we won a lot. And we want guys to come in here that want to continue that expectation here at SMU. And it's a lot easier when they come in the door already being used to that versus us having to kind of help them understand what that means. And I think that's, to your point, another big deal about being in Texas, because all the high school coaches in Texas, they expect to win. And they run their programs almost like a college program. So that also helps those guys, I think, come in here, not only with that expectation to win, but understanding what it takes to be in a big-time program and compete early.
With 2 years under your belt in the ACC, I know you had a lot of experience at Power 4 level before getting back here, but you know, the league and how you've seen so much over the last couple of years, has that changed how you look at high school prospects or evals or what you prioritize or any of that?
That's a good question. I don't know, probably because I'd been in the league and had enough experience. I don't know if it's changed how we were from 2 years ago to now. I do think, obviously, just being in the league has opened up a different level of recruiting for us. You know, we're back on the big stage of college football in terms of recruiting. And obviously the success we've had has really helped speed up the process. You know, have we not, won 30 games in the last 3 years and made the playoff and done all those things? I don't know. I think we'd have a good class, but who knows? I mean, people are attracted to winning, and so that's helped. I still think you've got to do both in this climate of college football. And when I say both, I mean the high school and or transfer world. Well, we're fortunate to be in Dallas, and every job's different. And at this job, in the ACC, in the Power 4 conference, really, we can recruit good enough high school players to let that be our base, and then go out and supplement the needs we need each year to make the team ready. Because you may have some guys leave early for the draft. You may have some guys leave. You may have some guys that we think are going to be a good player, but maybe they're 1 year away from their development. And to maximize next year's team, we got to go get this, this, and this. We're gonna still be active and get transfers in January this year. And I don't know the number off the top of my head. You probably would. Like our last 3 years, it's been 20 or more, I think, transfers. I think last year was the first year we had more high school than transfers, but it was still 20 transfers, right? I don't see us bringing 20 transfers in this year. Somewhere between 8 to 12, maybe. Like, I don't really know exactly, but that's because we've been able to recruit like this. So I don't know if being in the ACC has made us more or less. I think it's, we feel very confident that the Dallas high school kids and the state of Texas high school kids can translate well and compete in that league. And that's just a benefit for where we are for us.
When you look at the offensive line class, just the size, was that just a big priority to get out of the high school ranks, guys that in theory could play early because of that?
Yeah, from a football sense, I've always had some coaches of mine that I learned a lot from tell me big people beat up little people. And I mean, it's true. And so, when you go down the list and 6'4", 300, and 6'4", 340, and 6'7", 300, and 6'7.5", 330. And there's one number I can't read yet, but like it's, 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", 330. And so they're not coming in at 260, 270. I think of a Marcus Bryant who had a good career here. When we recruited him, he's like 240. He had to grow into that, right? Now we don't have to do that as much because of the caliber of player we can get. They're already at 300 now. The way their body fills out and the muscle and all that will still develop, and strength and all those things, but they already have the size that is needed to play at this level. And I think over the last 3 years, I even think our last year in the American was the first year we started making our O&D lines look like they needed to. I remember we went to Oklahoma and played, and we just said, well, we at least look like we belong out here. You know what I mean? And each year it's gotten a little bit better. When your high school kids have that kind of size, then I think that's when you got a chance to sustain it the way we want to. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm Bill Armstrong with Horse and Hound. I see a lot of thoroughbreds and a lot of dogs. This is really exciting. You mentioned that you have the most kids from the DFW area in
That's a great question. I would say Texas A&M, you know, LSU and Oklahoma come in here. Notre Dame comes in here some, you know. So you're thinking those national programs, national brands is who we have to compete. I mean, I just looked down the list. It was OU, it was A&M, it was Texas, it was Notre Dame and LSU for a majority of these Metroplex kids, you know. And but we have the benefit of being the home team, and if we can continue to win, that's a huge advantage for us.
Anything else?
Chris, you had anything?
I'm just excited that there's
Oh.
a Coke bottle.
Well, I'm excited. You're excited. You never told me if I could drink from Santa's Coke. But, all right, appreciate you guys.